Welcome to the Ladies Talk Show. This is your host, Leah Richheimer. We are on chapter 6. We're talking about navigator. We're talking about control. We're like getting better. I'm sure you guys have done some of the homework and you're like now blown away by how awesome your husband is behaving because you're giving him the control he desperately needs, right? I hope. Info at Ladies Talk Show. Send me a note. Okay. We are on page 136 and I'm going to read a couple of pages and then we're going to take your questions. Okay, here we go. The path to, this is 136, the path to contentment. I recognize that this may come as quite a shock to the system, given how important feeling powerful and in control it is in the current worldview. But there is more satisfaction and contentment available here than meets the eye, as you will hopefully soon see and feel. Rav Bachya says, the nature of a woman is to yearn to be under her husband's rule. Is this politically correct or what? Okay. Hello. Okay. But this is our key to happiness. Just listen up. To be under her husband's rule, something that is usually contrary to human nature. Most people want to be independent, but women want to be dependent on their husbands. This is discussing the nature of a woman. She wants to look up to her man. She wants to what's the word I'm looking for? She wants to like have this strength, this rock, it's like the rock and the butterfly, and a woman's a butterfly flipping and flapping all over the place. And she needs a rock to land on. And that's her husband. If she treats him like that. Okay, as difficult as this might be to even admit, there has to be some remnant of our inner selves that can hear this lesson and acknowledge that there is some grain of truth to it. Many powerhouse women have confided in me that they wish they knew better how to bring out the manly power in their husbands, that they longed to look up to him. The answer is simple: just stop taking away his power. I had a student who flew to Eretz Yisrael over Sukkot. Amy was in the midst of a 15-year power struggle with her husband, who earned less than half her income. On that fateful trip, she went to see a makubal seeking peace in her marriage. Amy walked down into a dark apartment lined with books and the aroma of baking challah. She handed the rabbi a slip of paper with their Hebrew names and sat down with a stern look on her face, about to tell her story, about how her husband, okay? Before Amy uttered a word, the rabbi reached for a sefer and then inexplicably placed before her the following quote from the Ben Ish Chai. Listen to this, ladies. Sometimes a woman's neshama, soul, does not need to be here for itself. It has already fulfilled its own purpose. It came here only to help her husband fulfill his purpose. Amy began sobbing. Perhaps it was all the years of suffering, or this wise man seemingly looking deep into her soul. But this hardened woman could not hold back. The quote resonated profoundly within her. She later told me that she had no clue if the quote was true or not, but for herself, but just the possibility that it might be true made her feel like she had been at war for all these years for nothing. It took her some time to catch her breath, and when she finally did, Amy asked, "What should I do?" "Make him your king," was all that he said. And that is how Amy found herself in my marriage class a few months later. When Amy told me this story, it truly strengthened my own conviction that I wanted to make Hashem's will my will. I wanted to grow myself even more into a woman who made my husband king, because that is what Hashem wanted of me. It made me recognize that there are deep spiritual truths operating in this world that are far beyond my capacity to understand. And rather than following my own agenda of what I thought was right and important, I wanted to follow Hashem's agenda and have the very best chance of getting it right. Okay, there we go. Faggy, we're ready for questions.
Okay, so Gila is asking, my husband has a very hands-on parenting approach, and I feel like he's always on my son's case. How he's eating, how he's walking, how he's speaking. I feel like my son is getting anxiety, but my husband thinks I'm overreacting.
Very good. So there is a issue with parenting from the last 60, 70 years, which is a lot of women went into psychology, which is fantastic, but they brought with them this whole, the way women do it is right and the way men do it is wrong. So if a kid misbehaves, the studies, or maybe studies more accurate, but the thinking is, kid did something wrong. You talk to him, listen, why did you hit your sister? You shouldn't have hit your sister. That was, we have to learn to control our emotions. And, there's this whole mushy mush, okay, which can be effective. I'm not knocking anybody, and I'm not an expert in the area. I do know that God gave a man that's a bit more harsh and a woman a bit more soft. And he gave both aspects. So a man would say something like, you hit your sister, go to your room, and the wife turns and says, no, we need to explain it to them. We need to, because she has bolstered with her woman's way of doing things, and she's absolutely positive she's right. But God gave two parents. So you may think that how your husband's micromanaging is wrong, and maybe it could be tweaked, Again, this is where influence makes much more powerful than control. If you tell him, don't do it, and he says, no, you're wrong. I think he does need micromanaging or whatever. Then it just becomes a battle, your opinion against his opinion. But if you're like, oh, okay, you're doing it that way. But if you let him completely have control and do it the way he does, and then late at night, you're sitting there talking, you say, today when our son was sitting at the table, and you told him, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. I think it might be more effective if you just let him gain self-mastery rather than having to have an adult always tell him the right way to behave. I don't know. What do you think? You think you should still tell him left, right, and center every 24/7? Okay, all right, fine. Hands off. Good luck. Let's, letting him have that control means the next time, even though you said your thoughts, even though he says, no, I want to do it my way. Next time, before he yells at the kid or whatever it is you're trying to correct in his behavior, he's at least going to have heard you. Why? Because you let him have control. You let him say, oh, if you still think that's the way to go, fine. Men need control. And it's very, very important that we give it to them. And then, and you might be wrong. That kid might need the micromanagement. You're so positive you're right? I'm telling you, it could be that harshness of your husband or that micromanagement of your husband could be the exact thing that kid needs in order to grow up to be a mature adult. There are many women who are cutting their husband's way of doing it because it's wrong, and they're cutting it left, right, and center. And then the kid becomes a teenager. And right when if that teenager had been raised with a harsh father, harsh, not hitting and mean and abuse and whatever. I'm talking about just a little more firm. Okay. If the wife had let him be firm instead of chopping the husband's, legs off at the, whatever, every time he tries to discipline the kid properly, then the kid turns into a lunatic as a teenager. Well, they all turn into whatever for a while. No insult intended, but it's raising teenagers is a very challenging time. But she's completely taken all of the authority away from her husband, and when she needs it the most, he's nowhere to be seen. She's undermined him for the last decade. So good luck. So don't be so sure that you're right. Okay. Next question.
So this one is from Tamar. My parents are coming for Shabbos, and my mom loves challah and is allergic to sesame seeds. But my husband really likes sesame seeds on his challah. I don't want it to look like I'm choosing my mom over my husband, but I want her to be able to eat as much challah as she wants.
That's not a marriage question. That's a logistics issue. Make half of them with sesame seeds and half of them without sesame seeds. Is there any other conclusion one can draw from such a thing? Peggy?
I guess.
Right?
Maybe I don't know. I thought the same thing, maybe,
So, the only issue is if you're saying that she gave a that she has let's pick a different example. The mother wants to do, your husband likes to come home and read a sefer for 5 minutes after he gets home, and she wants to eat right away, something like that. Then she's obligated to follow her husband's will over her mother's will. That's absolutely clear from our sources. To that example, yeah. So no, she has to put her. But if her mother was allergic, or let's say she was hypoglycemic and had to eat right away, so then she brings her mother in the kitchen, they say a little kiddush, and she eats whatever if she's waiting for the husband. I don't know. It's getting way too complicated, hypothetical, whatever. But the basic thing is that she is obligated to follow her husband's will on that, on anything. There's a source that says anything that our husband likes, we should draw close to him, and anything he doesn't like, we should take away from him. And we should try to do that as much as we possibly can. Okay, go ahead, Peggy.
I think she forgot to say that her mom can be around sesame seeds even. She might be allergic to it.
Right. Which is the same answer. Make 2 challahs, Okay, it's extra work or whatever. No, it isn't even extra work. One you put, anyway, okay. She can make all of them with sesame seeds and save 2 for her mother, or 3, or whatever they need for Shabbos. Okay, next question.
Okay, so this is from Rebecca. I like to document our relationship when we go out by taking a few pictures of our food, the venue, and of us. I like to remember the memories by creating photo albums. My husband cannot stand it because he says he would rather live in the moment with me and not be on our phones, even if it is to take photos. Should I get rid of valuing saving our memories?
Okay, I understand the question, but I don't understand why she has a question, of course.
Because she wants to take pictures and save it, and her husband would rather he not.
Right. And so she's following her husband's will. Now, it could be, she cannot be taking pictures if he feels like it takes her away. This is her opportunity to be close to him. This is her opportunity to have a bonding with him and to get all of her emotional, spiritual, and needs met in a deep way. And she's throwing it away to have a photo that she's, I don't get it. Something is, maybe it's social media that she wants to show it to other people. Maybe she wants to remember it herself. I don't know. But if this troubles him, look, if he's like, oh, I'd rather you didn't, but, okay, let's just take one, or something, maybe there's a compromise available. But if this is something that is troubling to him and that really bothers him, he wants to be in the moment, which is what you said, she has no right to interfere. It's with his desire. It just, even if it was shoes on the other foot, this is not about husband and wife as much. If he wanted to take pictures and she felt it made a separation, a wall between them, he really needs to listen to her and this as well. So this is less of even he's your king thing of just derech eretz and taking care of each other. However, it could be if this was if making scrapbooks and it was her artistic expression, or she wanted to have a document what their life was like, and that was really integral to her enjoyment of being with him. Which, for some people that is, and it doesn't have to do with showing off and social media. Okay, let's just say it was really just that kind of a deep need. Then she can try and convince him. She can say, I hear that it's, that you felt like I'm not with you. It's not the case. I feel totally with you. But if that makes you feel that way, how many photos of the thing would you be comfortable compromising on? Like one of the food, one of us, one of 3 pictures, 6 pictures, and can I do one at the beginning of the meal, one at the end of the meal, or do you prefer only when the food comes, I get to take the pictures and then that's it? Let me know. It could be she could have a good she could have a compromise with him, and it could work. But my gut feeling is, if he has a visceral feeling that really bothers him, I think she needs to get over it and take pictures of the kids, or find other ways to get that creative outlet if that's what's driving it. If it's social media that's driving it, I feel much less strongly about letting her do it, because that's not really fair to do to her husband, to put something on him that is just for outside things, that's caring more about other people than caring about the single most important person in her life. Okay, we have time for one quick last question. Quick one.
Okay, so Racheli, she wants to say, my daughter, who can be sensitive, asked me why her dad always yells at her when she makes a mistake instead of talking nicely. I didn't know how to answer her in a way that didn't undermine my husband.
It's fantastic. Good for you. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous question. And you absolutely are right for not answering it and undermining your husband, because it always comes back to be very bad for you in terms of the kid's growth, and in terms of your kid wants to look up to her daddy or his daddy. So for this one, I think the key here is to understand that, there's a time and a place to have that conversation with your husband, if possible. If you feel that he's just, what do you call it? Letting out anger and, taking it out on her, and he had a bad day at work, and so he's taking it out on her, and she doesn't really deserve it. Or if you think it's going to grow her, he's talking sharply to her, and that's going to grow her into a person who is fearful to not please other people, which maybe she needs. God gave her that father for a reason. So whatever psychological things, it can be broken. It can be that he's mistaken and he shouldn't be doing what he does. But it also could potentially be that God felt this child needed that kind of, harshness. I don't know. We don't know the answer to that. But one thing's for sure, we can't assume that we're right and he's wrong. Okay. So we just have to explore it a little bit. So it could be that in a conversation, it's because he's coming home from work, and it happens every day when he comes home at work, and look at patterns of how these things happen. And he's taking it out on her every day. So what you need to do is say, you know what, for the first half hour that daddy gets home, stay in your room, or be busy setting the table, or, whatever, if that's the case. Or you can say, when your husband comes home, say, when you get home from work, I feel like that so much is flying in the house. When you get home and pull up to the driveway, I'd like to leave the house and come and sit with you for 5 minutes at the most. Like, we'll just be a quick thing just to say hi, and then you can calm him down. So you have to use your Bina Sarah and your seichel, your brain, your women's intuition and your brain to figure out how to solve this for the best of the family without making your husband wrong. And think of creative solutions on how to make more shalom in your home.
Nancy is asking, my husband and I recently became religious. I'm starting to apply treating my husband like a king, but my mother gets very upset whenever she sees me and says I've turned into a subservient female, and I'm afraid it's a chilul Hashem.
It's a chilul Hashem to her mother, meaning the daughter feels that it's a embarrassment of Hashem's name in front of her mom.
Right.
So I hear, and good for you for caring so much to even write the question in. It's very good. But here's the thing. It's kind of like, do I do the right thing and be looked down upon for it? Or do I do the wrong thing and have someone think well of me, but it's the wrong thing because they don't know, they're upside down and is right side up. I mean, if she's a Baal Tshuva, her mom doesn't know that the beauty and closeness that she's going to achieve with her husband. I had a student who was a Baal Tshuva, and her mother was really haranguing her, like, you've been brainwashed, you're in a cult, you're, whatever. And it really gave her the hardest time. And it went on for about 10 years. And her daughter, I think, was 8 years old or something, 8 or 9, I guess. And they had a school play, and she brought her mom. She said, Mom, do you want to come? It's very religious. I request that you, wear a skirt and long sleeves and whatever. And her mother, by then she was close with the daughter, and she went to the play or the performance, whatever. And the kids got up on stage, and they were singing songs like, "My mommy, I want to grow up and be just like you." And, they were going on and on, one scene like that after the next of just this whatever. And this mother who was like used to her other grandkids who she'd go over to their house and the kids would be off playing Nintendo or, whatever. I don't know. The mother like watched the show, and at the end she turned to her daughter and she said, "I finally get it. Took me 10 years, but I finally get it. That's why you wear a wig. That's why you dress the way you do. That's why you're in this community. That's why you keep Shabbos, is to create a daughter like that." Great job. So for you, you're working on your mom and you're trying to do the right thing or whatever. It might take time. It might take 10 years or whatever. But if you do the right thing and you be what you're considering a, subservient wife or whatever, but she'll be able to witness. You're going to be treating your husband that way. And then your husband's going to come and say, "Oh, can I get you something, dear? Can I do something?" Your mother's going to also witness how your behavior, how it guaranteed to create in your husband a level of cherishing that your mother may never have witnessed in her life. And hopefully one day she'll be able to appreciate that. It's not a chilul Hashem to do the right thing. Great question. Okay, go ahead, Faggy.
Okay, Myra is asking, "I'm very dependent on my husband, but my husband is very independent and has no issue making decisions on his own. I just wish he would confide in me before making a big decision, but he doesn't feel he needs to. What can I do?" Isn't this everyone's sort of? I think everybody can relate to that.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it's tough. It's really a matter of having patience with your husband. If he has a lot of control for a long period of time, very quickly he will become he'll want your opinion. You're his helpmate. You're the one whose opinion he respects the most, even though it may not feel like it or seem like it. If you offer your opinion, all the time, or tell him or boss him or whatever, he's going to shun you and shun the whole, just like whatever. But if you are like, I had a thought about it. You want to hear what my thought is about it? Like, wouldn't you, if someone came to you, you were making a decision, and you were like, okay, you've got your checkbook out, you're about to sign on the dotted line for this car that you're buying or whatever, and your best friend comes and says, "Oh, I know a lot about that car. You want some information?" You'd be like, "Yeah, like, hello, where have you been? Why are you coming this late hour?" You'd want their information. If your best friend was sitting there saying, you're like, "I'm going to buy a car." "Oh, don't buy the ones that don't go to that shop. Don't, and they started throwing all kinds of advice to you and input and, telling you what to do and how to do it. You'd be like, Thank you very much. Have a nice day." So we have to do the same thing with our husband. If you go to your husband and you say, "Oh, I had some thoughts about, this decision you're going to make, did you want to hear them?" Or, okay, you feel strongly that the kid should go to that camp. Okay, fine. I hear it. Okay, we'll send to that camp. But I did hear some information today from when I was in carpool. Someone told me this and this, and, a few things about it. Would you like to hear it first? No? Okay, we'll send to that camp. Unless you feel very strongly, and then, there's a whole other thing I'll get to in a second. But, him knowing he's got ultimate power and control and that his decision matters and it's not your way or the highway is going to be what's going to eventually transform. And if it is something like, your husband wants to do something that you feel is very, very wrong, there are a few times that a woman needs to put her foot down. And someone gave the example like, "Leah, how could you say it's the husband's will? And Sarah Manu, she's the one who said, she sent Ishmael out, hello, she defied her husband, and Rivka gave deceived her husband with the itself and the furry arm." So I gave that to a Rav and I said, wait a minute, they're right. And his answer was, "You don't get it. That was one time. Sarah listened to her husband. Lech lecha. She went. The angels came, make a cow, whatever, whatever he said, she did. One time, this is what the Rav said, one time she he had to bend down and listen to her voice, or God said, listen to your wife. Okay. But all the other time, that was because she had 10,000 times of listening to her husband. That's what you have to remember. So this actually works. It's guaranteed to work. Listen to your husband, let him have his will, let him have control. You will gain more influence, and that's a guarantee from Hashem, not Leah. Okay, very good. Okay, Faggy, what's next?
So guess what? Myra has another thing to add. She wants to let you know that he never even tells me about a decision till after he made it. So I can't even give him control. I never get the opportunity. Everything is just done without my input at all. Like she hears about it after everything was said and done.
That's not ideal. So this is one of those things where the wife really needs to have a sit-down conversation. This is not something he can get by, a 2-minute standing on one foot telling him how you feel. It's not that kind of a conversation. This is a kind of a thing where you make sure you're both well fed, both well rested, and hopefully away from the family, away from kids, away from household. Your phones are behind. This is time that a husband and wife needs to set aside to handle issues that need to be handled. So in that kind of a conversation, I would have a conversation of, sweetheart, I'm really not quite sure, and Myra, you can take notes, and use your own words. But I'm really not quite sure what to do. I have an issue that I wanted to discuss with you, and I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill, and I don't want to, make you feel badly in any way. I'm trying to figure out how to solve this with you. And so if you just don't mind, I just want to spill out what my emotions are, what my feelings are, and then we can figure out logistic. Maybe there's a solution we can have for it. And my feelings about it, are that I feel like, I love about you that you're a takes charge individual. I feel like, you're a horse and wagon. You're the, master of the horse and buggy, and you're taking us to great places. And I'm happy with my life, and I'm happy with if you are. And if you aren't, you can, fudge a little bit, but I'm generally happy with my thing. Make this a positive experience for your husband and say, I'm generally, very happy with the way things are going. But I also, there's a little part of me that feels like I don't have a say or a voice in where the direction of our life is. And if you're telling me this is the way it's got to be, then I'll try and live with it. But I was hoping that by bringing this to your attention and letting you know my emotions about it, and feeling like I want my, my heart and my soul and my B'nai Sarah and my intellect, whatever, to be consulted. I figured if I let you know that you'd say, added resource of information. That seems like a good idea. It could be that, if he's married twice, or whatever, in your past marriage, or in your family of origin, or whatever, or with your relationship and your business partner, you had to do that to protect and make sure you got a say. But with me, you're my king. You're my king. If you say this is the way it has to be, I'm not going to fight you on it. There's some things I might feel very strongly about, but to be included in your opinions, in our direction, would mean so much to me. Do you have any ideas? Now, again, you're putting the problem in his hands. Do you have any ideas, sweetheart, how we can work this out in a way that would be more workable? And if you're pouring out your heart to him, Chazal say that it'll go into his heart. If you do it trying to make him wrong, trying to get your way, trying to be right, trying to, control him, it's going to backfire. You're going to be worse off, God forbid. So you have to handle this very carefully. If you need someone to role play with it, we have lots of coaches you can work with that you can role play it, or you can get a therapist or a good confidant who's going to encourage you in this and not make your husband, say he should listen to you. No. A man needs to have control. And so it needs to be a very soft communication, and it needs to be well thought out. Good luck to you. Hashem should bench you that it should go well. Okay, this is Leah Richheimer for Ladies Talk Show. I'm going to give you homework this week. One time between this week and next week, find something that your husband's doing that's troubling you, and do a logistic workaround or talk to him about it. report. I'd love to hear how you succeeded in this. info@ladiestalkshow.com, and let me know. Oh, I tried this and it really worked, or whatever. Good luck to you. It's Leah Richheimer. We'll see you next week.